Donald Trump just did something that is probably the most popular thing he will do during his 4 years in office. He said he's going to get rid of the penny. Yes, the penny. All right, let me read his post on Truth Social. This was during the Super Bowl, which he was at. It wasn't that interesting a game, so he talked about the penny. He said this: "For far too long, the United States has minted pennies which literally cost us more than 2 cents. This is so wasteful. I have instructed my Secretary of the U.S. Treasury to stop producing new pennies. Let's rip the waste out of our great nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time." Okay, now, first of all, Donald Trump, quick fact check. It actually costs more than 3 pennies to make 1 penny. So the face value of the penny is 1/3 what it costs to make it. Okay. And that has been the case. It has cost more to make a penny than a penny is worth since 2005. So we are 19 years into that reality. So I went back, because I'm nerdy. I went back and dug into the history and especially the political history of the penny. Let's take a walk down memory lane, shall we? This is memory lane. Okay. In 1792, the U.S. Mint was created by Congress. In 1793, the U.S. penny began to be minted by the Mint. It was one of the first coins they ever did. At the time when they started, the image on the penny was a woman with long, flowing hair, which was made to represent freedom, in theory. It was larger than our current penny, and it was made purely of copper. Fun fact, each one was hand engraved. They used to hand engrave every penny. Now, in 1857, the penny gets smaller, and because it is no longer as copper is more expensive, they start mixing copper with nickel to make the penny. In 1909, Abraham Lincoln, who is still on the penny, just in case you've had one recently, he becomes the first, this is so fascinating, the first real person ever to be put on a circulating coin. Okay, so that gets us through kind of the penny as it looks now. It's copper and nickel. Lincoln is on it. It's a little smaller than it used to be, and it is not anymore hand engraved. By the way, it is still made at the Mint in Philadelphia and the Mint in Denver, in case you're wondering, and you're a gigantic coin nerd, a numismatist, if you will. Okay, now, let's jump to the present day, and then I want to talk about politics. So there are 240 billion, that's with billion with a B, billion pennies currently in circulation, okay? That means that for every man, woman, and child in these United States, you could give each of them 724 pennies each. Now, most of the pennies are actually not sort of being circulated because people don't use pennies that much anymore. But what they are is in jars. And people have basically said, like economists have said, if everyone cashed in all the pennies they have in all the jars in all of their houses, there would be a massive run problem because we just don't have that kind of liquidity. Okay. Here's some other fun penny facts. Did you know that this is all via Katie Weaver, who wrote an amazing piece on the possibility of banning the penny in the New York Times in 2024. I cannot recommend the piece highly enough. I will link to it below. It is amazing. $100 worth of pennies, okay, $100 worth of pennies weighs more than 55 pounds. 55 pounds! Okay, so let's talk about... Those are all my fun penny facts. Let's talk about the efforts to ban the penny, which now go back almost 50 years by Congress and the administration. So in 1976, Treasury Secretary William Simon went to Congress and he begged Congress to, quote, give serious consideration to getting rid of the penny. They basically ignored him. In 1989 was the first major piece of legislation that was sponsored by two guys, one of which was Jim Colby, who was a longtime House member from Arizona, Republican, moderate Republican, who spent years trying to get the penny banned. He introduces it, and he says that we need legislation to get rid of the penny and round all transactions up to the nickel. Now, this banner of banning the penny has been carried by lots and lots and lots of politicians. So Jim Colby is one. Steve Stivers, who was in Congress from Ohio, another Republican for years, he basically spent a decade trying to get the penny banned unsuccessfully. As recently as 2023, efforts to ban or stop printing the penny have been nixed by Congress. Now, one of my favorite penny-related quotes. So this is Barack Obama. So during Obama's term, he talked about banning the penny, and he said it was a good metaphor for some of the larger problems of the U.S. government. And what he meant by that is we can't get rid of things even though we know they are no longer relevant and people really don't use them anymore. So it's bipartisan. Barack Obama wanted it. Steve Stivers, Jim Colby, Republicans, they wanted it. William Simon in 76 wanted it, but we don't have it. Or do we? Let me do a couple things about Donald Trump's. So I went and looked at the polling because I wanted to see, yes, we know politicians have worked to get rid of the penny, and yet it hasn't happened. Does that mean that people want to keep the penny? Au contraire, mon frère. They do not want to keep the penny. So in 2022, this group called Data for Progress did polling. 58% of people overall want to get rid of the penny. So almost 6 in 10. Those numbers are remarkably consistent across political partisanship. 59% of Democrats say get rid of the penny, 60% of independents, thank you, Thumb, and 57% of Republicans. Now, here's something to keep in mind. Here's something interesting, okay? In that same poll, they asked, should we get rid of the nickel too? Should we stop making nickels? And only 33% of people said, yes, we need to get rid of the nickel. Now, here's something very interesting on my I got 9 note cards here. Look, I'll show you. Look at that, 9 note cards. Okay, the last interesting fact about the penny/nickel debate. So I said a penny costs three-ish cents to make. A nickel, which last time I checked is worth 5 cents, costs 13.8 cents to make, almost triple what it costs to make, what a nickel actually costs. So even if we roll up the penny, see what I did there? Roll up the penny. Even if we roll up the penny, the nickel is still not cost effective. And we'd save even more money if we got rid of the nickel, which gets us to the dime. So we could just have dime, quarter, and that's it. But anyway, that's the history of the penny, politically and otherwise. There have been so many efforts. The question, honestly, right now is Donald Trump is saying he's telling the Secretary of the Treasury not to tell the U.S. Mint not to mint any more coins, any more pennies. The issue is, can the executive branch do this? Is this something within the executive branch? Because as I mentioned, all of these efforts have run through Congress before because it was Congress that created the U.S. Mint all the way back in 1792 and generally speaking has overseen the management of the mint, including allocating its budget. So this is another example, albeit kind of a funny one, another example of Donald Trump trying to expand executive power and take more power away from the legislative branch. And you just thought it was just a simple True Social post about the penny. Always more to learn. I am fascinated by this. I hope you were too. I will keep on track of this. I will be the chief currency correspondent on this YouTube channel. I always ask you to do a couple things. I ask you to like this video. I ask you to subscribe to this channel. I ask you to comment on this video. And I ask you to tell 10 of your friends about this channel. All right, everybody, take good care.